At this point, there's probably about 1,000 different cop shows on TV, cop movies, cop dramas, cop thrillers, cop action films, but there's definitely one story involving detective work that should not be overlooked, and that's the very much classical HBO original, The Wire. The Wire is such an amazingly told story through and through, right from season 1 all the way to season 5. Yes, it is a 60 episode, pretty short series, but the creator, David Simon, also the writer, he started that TV series how he wanted to start it, ended it exactly as it needed to be ended, how he wanted it to end. And within those seasons, those 5 seasons, they go from on the streets level storytelling all the way to an entire city's worth of stories. I'm going to break it down each season for you just so you get a little glimpse of what to expect if you were to go into this amazing, masterful story. Now, before that, I need to state my review, and I would say it is extremely highly recommended from me. Okay, The Wire is definitely hands down. It's better than True Detective. It's far, far more superior than like Law and Order and things of that nature. I would say it's better than Justified, but Justified itself, I personally believe the dialogue is better written and Justified. But The Wire is such a better, more fulfilled, lived in world. It's really good writing. The characters are amazing, whether they're good or bad guys. They are fully realized, written so damn well. You like and hate every single character. They are such lived in characters. They are so fully realized and enveloped in their own stories, their own backstories. And The Wire, hands down, other than The Sopranos, basically made HBO what it is now. The Wire started in 2002 and it ended in 2008. Season 1 was in 2002 and it was basically the on the streets level storytelling. Okay, it involved a group of detectives that were assigned into their own detail unit meant to track on street level drug dealers all the way up to the big bosses in the state of Baltimore and Maryland and all of that. And it works very well. Season 1, I do have a couple gripes with season 1, and honestly, these are the only criticisms I have towards the series as a whole. The Wire only has 2 gripes from me, and one of them really isn't even that bad of a deal because it goes along and meshes well with the storytelling, the narrative of it. The first gripe I have is season 1 does start off extremely slow. It starts off with basically no story, and honestly, it's a slow burn of a story. Season 1 especially gets criticized because each episode is segregated for its own plot point for the story of season 1. But with that being said, each episode has its own direction. It has its own target for what it wants to accomplish. So every single episode is based around basically the name of that episode. And in doing so, I think it achieved masterful storytelling. My other gripe and criticism for The Wire, again, is in season 1. There are certain plot points in the story, they are predictable. And there's no getting around it, there's no denying it. There are some predictable cliche cop drama moments in season 1, but they are very, very far and few in between. Outside of those 2 gripes, season 1 to season 5, masterful. 10 out of 10 for everything if it weren't for those gripes. Okay. The cinematography is always outstanding in every single season. The writing, the dialogue, everything is phenomenal. The direction, the focus on every episode's detailed narrative plot point. There are definitely some moments that shine in the camera work, the direction, the storytelling. For example, in season 1, there's a main character. I won't say who because technically it's a spoiler. There's a character who's a drunk through and through, and it's not a story about being a drunk and then bad stuff happens and then he gets out of it. It's not like that. This is a realistic take on a detective show. Okay, so he's a drunk. He's always gonna be a drunk. That's usually how it works in the real world. Anyway, there's a scene where 2 other characters try to track him down, and apparently he not only drank the night prior, but he drank that morning to a point where he ended up passing out in his chair. And the way the camera works for that scene, that moment, it's art. That's what they wanted, and that's what they achieved. They achieved nothing but masterful art. The camera pans back. It shows him basically slumped down in his chair, passed the hell out because he's a drunk. And it was just a perfect still shot-for-shot scene, just right then and there. And honestly, that scene alone makes up for the criticisms I have for season 1. But, we're going to get into everything else. So the main story of The Wire involves drugs, police, and surprising, by the end of it, the government. They deal with councilmen, mayors, governors, and I would say the highest level they go into the story is governors. But, under governors, they go through basically every single facet of the government. Councilmen, senators, mayors, meetings from mayors with governors. They have political battles, mayor versus councilman, who will win for the next election, the next term as mayor, who will become the new senator, who will become the new commissioner, the new deputy, who gets promoted, who gets fired. It's all of that. And the same thing actually also shows off in the streets with the dealers and the high-level criminals and bosses. Basically it's a 2-sided story, and you get both sides of the story, and it's amazing. There's a certain character, I would say he's a tertiary character, just because he plays both sides when it fits him best. He basically has a bad backstory, and in doing so, he ends up robbing drug dealers because his excuse is, who cares? They're drug dealers. I'm taking care of your problem for you. He robs them of their drugs, distributes them himself, basically free of charge for people that need help. His storyline is definitely one of the strongest throughout the entire series. I'm trying to be as vague as possible because I really don't want to spoil anything about this masterpiece of a TV show. Anyway, The Wire, the known actors and actresses and names I can think of, hands down Idris Elba, and he does hands down great work in his part of the story and the acting. You have Dominic West, who's a detective. Trying to think of other ones. Oh, Wood Harris, he's also in it. If you've ever watched Justified, he's in season 5, the 2nd episode, as well as the 9th episode of season 5. He's amazing. And at this point, in anything that he stars in, he does amazing acting work. The priest from The Walking Dead is in this. I'm not very familiar with... Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, I forgot. Aidan Gillen. He is a phenomenal actor through and through. You hated him in Game of Thrones? Well, guess what? You're gonna love him in The Wire. Yeah, that's how that works. Acting gigs. That's seriously, that's how it works. Anyway, so The Wire, season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they never skimp on the realism. They never skimp on the detective work. They certainly never glorify anything. Okay? I love Sons of Anarchy. That's one of my all-time favorite shows. but I have major problems with it, particularly in the last 2 seasons, okay? Kurt Sutter, the creator and writer, he wanted to expand his story, which is fine. He wanted to make it HBO level storytelling. That's fine. Problem is that he had this level of story with this level of storytelling. It didn't really work that well. They're great stories, but the episodes should have been shorter and tightened up all around. The Wire doesn't do that. The only exception I can think of is the series finale, which runs at 1 hour and 33 minutes, and every single second of it is important and vital. And by a couple seasons into The Wire, you're looking at so many different perspectives of the story. It's basically like Game of Thrones storytelling. They focus on one person or a group of people in their own set individual story. And yes, there are moments when each story intertwines with one another, particularly detectives and whatnot, because obviously, and the detectives with the dealers as well, but it's all complete and fulfilled. Every single second that you spend watching The Wire is vital, detailed, and very important. There's never going to be a second when a scene is going on and you're thinking to yourself, why is this necessary? There's never a scene. Even if it isn't relevant at the time, only for like the season finale or whatever, it's still vital and important right in that moment. There is not a single flaw in the storytelling. So with that being said, like I said, my only criticism with the Wire series through and through is the little chunks of cliche predictability in the plots, in the story of season 1 only. I want to make that very, very urgent and important to note. The cliche parts in the story are only relegated to season 1. Everything else, hands down, 10 out of 10. Everything. Otherwise, what you will be expecting is unexpected deaths, definitely. Amazing storytelling, 100%. Amazing writing, amazing characters that you love and hate, and there's not a single character that overshines at anybody. Like I said, this is grounded in pure realism. This isn't about, well, I like him more, but I hate him. No. You love and hate everybody. Okay, they are actual lived-in humans. They do very good things. There are times they do bad things. There are times when you think to yourself, I don't agree with that, but I understand why they're doing it. And that's always going to happen. That's always going to be the case. Every single character that you can think of that you will see in The Wire, that's every character. And every character is their own personality and their own person and character. So again, my final review, The Wire series review, 9.5 out of 10. Thank you.